Do You Do podcast with Matt and Al.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the What Do You Do podcast. I'm back here with my boy Al.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
And this is our first actual video one, hopefully, if it all works out.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. It's been a while, but our guest today is Jamie Waldron, what would you call it? Just butcher?
That's probably the safest way to put it.
Just straight up butcher.
There's no technical term.
No.
Culinary butchery?
No.
Specialist.
No. You could sugarcoat it all you want, but I'll just go with butcher.
Butcher. Okay. And so what is it you do, man? Like synopsis.
Okay. So what I do. Wow. Okay. Oh man, I'll try to paraphrase it. So I am a butcher. I feel like I'm some sort of like at some sort of AA meeting or something by having that type of announcement. But honestly, what I do is a large portion of my day-to-day activity is educating the public on whole animal butchery. So I run hands-on workshops where people come and they will take apart a pig, they'll take apart chickens, they'll take apart lambs, whatever have you. So these are hands-on workshops that I put on all over Ontario. And I've just recently launched a meat share program in the Hamilton area. So that just means that instead of people getting in there and rolling up their sleeves and doing the work, I'm doing the work. And then they just meet me at a centralized pickup location and they pick up their meat. So
they just drag over a dead lamb and they're like, hey, I want steak tonight, go.
No. You know, there's a little bit more nuance than that. So my thing is that I'm really particular about the meat that I bring in. So I'm a huge fan of supporting the small farmers in Ontario that are just doing tremendous work. So I go to the farms, I meet the farmers, I see the animals, they're on pasture, they're doing all the things that we want to think that animals should be doing. You know, when you go to the grocery store and you see those pictures on the wall, that's total horseshit, right? We all know that. Am I allowed to
Al,
swear?
do you go to the grocery store?
I do.
Okay. Do you know what he's talking about? Because I don't go to the grocery store.
So
I got married for that 20 years ago.
But quite honestly, like I'm just dying to ask some questions, and I think in terms of like
I haven't been to the grocery store
Matt,
in
you're
so
gonna love
long,
this.
dude.
So basically, when I was talking,
My wife's a chef, and I just
spoiled.
Yeah, totally.
he's one of those guys that he barely knows that meat comes from an animal.
Sometimes
I know it comes served on a plate, dude. That's how it comes.
But
with potatoes and
like,
shit on the side.
But you were mentioning about this work fair earlier, and like just dying to ask.
Go.
So do you have like lineups of people with their chickens and stuff? It's like, hey, dude, like show me how to butcher my chicken. Like,
no. So honestly, like
where would you do these?
Okay, great question. So there's venues all over Ontario. So I've done them in breweries, I've done them in culinary studios, I've done them in classrooms, people's homes. Wherever I'm hired, I go. The product is either brought with me or they'll supply the product.
See. So you're not actually butchering the animal.
No.
That's what I'm thinking. Workshop is like, is this guy actually teaching people how to butcher?
He's taking the lamb out back and putting the pillow over its head.
No. Although, you know, I do have a background.
I thought you loved me.
I have a background in that, and I'm fully capable of doing it. But no, that's not. No. These are geared to the general public, and I don't want to totally like turn people off the thing. I want them to be educated in the process.
No. And I just wanted to get that out of the way because I'm sure I'm sure some people are asking is like, well, what is it that he does? Like, how do you teach about butchery? Like so basically, you show up with finished product.
No. It's still a half cart. Like if there's a class like a pig class.
Oh, I see. You show up with like a half pig.
2 half pigs and 8 people are there, and then 4
and you
people
carve
on the
it
side,
up in front of them.
And I walk them through it. It is a hands.
Oh, they do.
Class.
Oh,
they get to carve it up.
It. And then they take all the meat home at the end of the class.
Oh, so it's sort of like the idea of what I was thinking about, where people show up with their own half carcasses. Is like,
Sure.
Okay, I just shot this.
Right.
Let's carve it up.
Yeah.
Versus, but what you're saying is like it's an actual workshop where you pay and you get it nice and clean and properly prepared.
Has anybody ever showed up with a half ex-wife?
No.
No, not yet.
No, not yet.
Did I?
Look, I just need to get rid of these parts.
Although maybe at the end of it, they might be more capable of doing
Grind this up in a hamburger.
Exactly.
I think I just trained a serial killer.
There's a learning curve.
But no, in all seriousness, like these workshops, like how many of these you do in a year?
Oh man, I've lost track because like I was looking at the calendar for March and I've got I think
Really?
8 on the calendar right now.
No shit.
You're that busy.
I am that busy.
That's honestly, like up until Matt told me, he's like, we're gonna have a butcher on the podcast. I was like, they still have those?
Well, of course. Well,
Like
obviously they
seriously,
still have
that's what I
butchers.
thought.
I thought
knew
it's more.
like, when I was younger, it made sense because my mom would order from a real butcher in the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't really see that anymore. It's basically, here's a fridge with prepackaged meat, and there's like nobody to be found except some part-time student who stocks the shelves.
Yeah, some pimply kid with a beard net or something.
Pretty
right?
much, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't see butchers in grocery stores anymore.
No, well, I mean,
Not really.
not really. There, I mean, I think I would
There's a
wager that there is some in some grocery stores that are still trying to hold on to like some sort of like illusions of like
But
tradition.
you don't
or
see one in
something.
Fresco. You don't see one in No Frills
No,
and those kinds of
no,
grocery
no, no.
stores.
That's all
And what do you mean
You'll
by-
centralized.
see it in like Fortino's.
Fortino's, yes.
What do you mean by that? Illusions of
Like maintaining some sort of tradition because
tradition. Yeah,
everybody
that was it.
really loves to still walk in and feel like they can take that trip back down memory lane and maybe
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
to
yeah.
their butcher. Right? You hear it, right? It's talk to your butcher, make a relationship with your butcher. You know, the baker's still there. Fortino's is a great example of that because they still employ those types of professions.
Yes.
But you're right, like your Freshcos, No Frills. A lot of those grocery stores have just gone to centralized cutting facilities, and everything comes in a box or like cellophane wrapped, already labeled, so that the kid with the beard net gets to go out there and recycle and you know cycle through the product or whatever have you. So
Take out the expired product
That's right.
and recycle and change the date on it.
That all
Not
comes
bad.
from Fear Man.
it could.
Yeah. right.
Yeah, it could certainly. Yeah, like they're all those packing plants are doing the work for them, or even like Sobeys may have like a centralized facility for a Sobeys, and I think
For the smaller
Sobeys
scale,
owes-
so smaller stores.
And where did you learn how to do this?
Good question, man. So yeah, when I was out of high school, I wish it was like some sort of awesome story, but it's not. Like was out of high school, I needed a job, and some people I knew worked at a small little retail shop, and they needed somebody there. I went there. I worked up until the point where they wouldn't give me May 2-4 weekend off, so I quit. As you do when you're 19, right? Just an
Yeah, totally.
total idiot when you're
yeah.
at
And some people
What?
still doing their 30s.
All my friends have it off.
Precise, honestly.
You want me to work?
Yeah, I was like, no. So then whatever, I quit that job, and then when I like came back from A24, I was in the same situation. Then that little bit of experience that I had from being out of high school and having that job got me a foot in the door of another place. So I'm originally from the Windsor area. So down in Windsor, there's a place called Remark Farms. And they hired me on, and I ended up working there for 5 years. And then it was just kind of like a checker.
You don't look like you've been out of high school for 5 years, though.
I appreciate that. That's really nice. I'll take that as a compliment.
No,
So I've been, honestly, I've been doing this for almost 20 years now.
Yeah. I was
20
gonna
years?
say,
Yeah.
How old are you?
dude, what time did you go to high school?
I know. Eh? Do you think I was Doogie Howser or something?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm going to be 44 this year.
That's wow. I'm a year and a half older than you, but
Okay. So yeah, it's just been like a kind of like back and forth, and tried like hell when I was a kid to get out of it. Like really wanted nothing to do with it, and it wasn't until probably about the past like I don't know 10 or 15 years that I thought that it might be some sort of a viable career, and just kind of been sticking with it.
Yeah,
So-
Yeah.
walk me through one of your workshops. Here's my dead lamb. Her name was Buffy. I'm hungry. Go.
Okay. So, like honestly, like it seems like the lion's share is generally pork. Everybody gets real excited about taking the pork classes. So those are more often than not.
Seriously?
So they're
pork
different classes, like a beef class, a pork class,
Yes, like generally when I start talking to like a potential workshop host, we'll run through our options, and we always kind of settle on pork because we can get 8 people out there. The price point's relatively affordable, and everybody goes home with the meat. And so like lamb's really expensive, chicken, everybody.
How much, just out of curiosity, is a pork workshop?
Some venues will go anywhere from $180 up to like $200. But
Seriously?
here's the value. Like, I mean, this
includes
isn't a sales pitch.
But that includes the pig?
Yeah, you take home 20, 25 pounds of meat at the end. Like these guys are going home with like, and the more like adventurous cooks, the ones that'll like take skin or the head.
Yeah.
Like, they go all that
we're
stuff
taking
too.
those
Tiffany would
parts
do
too.
that for
Yeah,
sure.
No, we're
exactly,
taking the
right?
head for sure.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
you can't even go to a butcher shop, like an independent butcher shop, and pay that little money for that much
Well,
meat.
here's a story, because we buy roast pig
Mm.
at Christmas every year. We go to a Chinese shop in Hamilton,
Mm-hmm.
here on Queen Street, actually.
Yeah,
And I order roast pig every year, and it's it's $220, $240 a pig.
Yep.
Roasted, but with the head on and everything like that, ready to go, rock and roll.
Yeah.
Party time. And like we keep the head, we keep the legs, we keep all that stuff and make like a stew out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we don't waste any aspect of the animal.
Yeah.
Like we eat it literally head to toe.
Yeah, and that's kind of like one of the underlying themes of the workshop. Is I always say, like, I judge the success of the workshop by how little I have to dispose at the end, because we talk about like the uses for every single thing, and then that gets kind of people like kind of amped up. By the end of it, they're like, oh, well, you were talking about the trotters, like I want to take those home and try those. So there's always a
Trotters? What's
dialogue.
that?
The feet.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Trotters.
like there's a dialogue.
I should have put that together. The trotters, huh? Honestly, when Tiffany buys a full rabbit, my favorite parts are when we fry up the liver, the heart,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the kidneys.
Me too.
Yeah.
I like
Like,
the organs.
I just
like the
eat that
organs,
shit
too.
up. And so is the cat.
It's true. That stuff's so good, right? And
Yeah.
good for you. Probably the best stuff you're gonna eat.
It's so tasty.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in your workshops, do you get the organs or no?
There's a couple of kidneys in the pigs, but they don't normally leave the organ meats in it. Normally at the processing plants, they're taking what we call the eviscera, and they're like sending that off to a rendering plant. And that's getting recycled and made into other products, right?
Dog food.
And you know what? That stuff is best
Yeah.
fresh, so it normally doesn't come like you wouldn't get the heart, liver, lungs, that kind of thing, unless
Yeah.
you specify that you wanted them. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, so again, I'm there. I've got my lamb.
Yep.
Her name was Buffy. She died. She lived a good life.
Okay.
I want lamb steak tonight. What do I do?
So in a lamb class, I'm trying to
Okay,
remember.
maybe I shouldn't say lamb. Here's
The
my
pig
pig.
class. Okay.
His name was Porky.
Eventually we'll get there, but we're going to have to go through a couple of processes before we get there. So anyway, so we start the class and we just do a little bit of dialogue. We talk about where the pig was raised, how it was killed. I go through the whole slaughter process beginning to end just to educate everybody there who's never
Why
heard of
does
it.
that matter?
Because I think that people are there, and I'm able to not have to gloss over those things. So if I'm in a retail situation and I'm talking to a customer, somebody might be a little bit squeamish about that stuff. I can't paint with a broad brush and tell like the whole story to everybody, because some people aren't comfortable with that. And I don't claim to be the guy that needs to like go out there and like advocate that everyone needs to either kill their own meat or understand the process. It's just like, that's not for everybody. I'm not going to jump into that political fight.
But at least, I would think at least just take it to the point where you at least understand where meat comes from.
100%. That's right. Yep.
So all
It
you're
doesn't just
explaining
come
to
from
them,
a package.
all you're
Yeah.
explaining to them is like, yeah, this guy, I sang a lullaby before I slit his throat. Is that what you're saying?
No, like I've worked in both pork processing plants and lamb processing plants, and so
Really?
like I have an insider's view on that. So I go through again like the whole process in the pig abattoir. We just talk about how it was stunned, how it was bled out, eviscerated, cleaned, the whole bit, right? Mm-hmm. And then after that, we just kind of split up the room into 4 and 4 because there's 8 people in a class, and then they take the head off.
They take the head off.
They take the head
And
off.
And
they each
you're
get a
not
quarter?
squeamish about that at that point.
It's rotational basis. So there's four and 4, right? So then they each take a turn splitting up the pig into the primal cuts, meaning the big basic 4 cuts: the shoulder, the loin, the belly, and the ham. And then they each kind of get turned away independently to work on those pieces on their own as I'm guiding them through all this stuff. So it's generally about a 2.5 to 3 hour workshop. And like I said, at the end, everybody has a way better understanding what the hell's
Wang
going
and
on.
Tiffany would like totally dominate in this class because I'm sure they understand their cuts. I know Wang does.
that and they like cutting things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're talking about our wives.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so,
yeah.
well, here's the thing. Like, now I would never take this course, obviously.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah, do you get people in there that are like, I'm in over my head?
There's been a couple
blood,
people that were thinking like, oh man, what have I gotten myself into? And then once they realize that you don't have safety glasses on and there's not shrapnel and blood flying everywhere, like it's honestly
Like
it's
in
a
the
really,
movies?
it's a really clean thing. Like it's not like people
I'm
are
sure.
walking away like covered in shit. And it's like it's not that at all. So once we get past like the first couple cuts, then the people that might have been like a little bit reserved are all of a sudden they're the ones that are in there. They're the ones that want to do the next step. They're very eager. So I think it's demystifying some of the preconceived notions that people walk in with. But you know what? Again, people are signing $200 of their hard-earned money. Like, I have a feeling that they're not totally.
Yeah. So what
squeamish about it.
what are these people looking for? Like, are these like people who own restaurants? Like, this can't be just random Joe saying, "Yeah, I want to cut my own pork."
Sometimes, like,
Really?
honestly, like it's a wide variety of people, man. It's chefs, it's meat cutters, like we were talking about in the grocery stores, that don't get that hands-on experience. They don't have that. Their meat comes in packages. They go, I want to know where the hell this stuff comes from. So I've had butchers there.
Okay. Yeah.
I've had chefs. I've had restaurateurs. I've had people that are starting to raise their own animals. I've had just home cooks. Barbecue is a huge thing. Like those guys that do like the big barbecue competitions, they want to know where stuff comes from.
Right.
Like the housewife that just wants a better understanding of where their meat's coming from and the cuts, because the thrifty folks will come out too and realize the benefit of buying the biggest piece of meat that they can in order to break it down into usable cuts. Because I always say, like, every time I got to touch something with a knife, it costs you money. So if you can back up a few steps,
Yeah.
get a big shoulder in and do it yourself, the savings are substantial.
Yeah, like let me give you an example. As growing up, my dad would buy a quarter or a side of beef with another family.
Yep.
And they would share the cost of that, and then they would pay the butcher to cut it up, and they would place their order, say how much hamburger do you want, how much this, how much that, whatever. Come up with a list of all these things that they want, give it in, and then it would show up all packaged.
Yeah.
Individually packaged.
Yep.
And then we would just throw that in the freezer, whatever we wanted to freeze.
And eat like kings for a year.
And for 6 months.
Yeah.
If you have so much money, that really isn't a concern. But for some people, it does become a concern. So for people that have to watch where their money goes, those are the ones that really should be paying attention on what they spend their money on in terms of food. Like focus around where do you get the most bang for your buck kind of idea, right?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it's not fast food, and it's not convenience. It's like if you have a limited food budget, you should be thinking about going back to the old school way with ingredients and things like that.
100%. And you know what? It's funny you say that, because there was an article in the Wall Street Journal like last week, and it was like, I think the title was something along the lines of like, learn how to butcher your own meat. The savings are there. Like, and that's what we already touched on it. Like, you can still go to the Costco's of the world and wherever else you want to get your groceries normally, and you can buy bigger pieces of meat. And as long as you have the basic skills to portion it, like the savings are substantial. So like, yeah.
Yeah, but these are people that are people that never grew up learning how to cook either. So that's all they know.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like me.
Right.
I'm like, I never really learned how to cook. I fell into it. My mom knew how to cook. My stepdad knew how to cook. And then I moved out and moved in with my wife. And she knew how to cook. And I never bothered to learn how to cook.
But you can't play the ignorance card, because every single one of us can pull out one of those things and be instantly tapped into YouTube or any type of recipe thing, and there's no excuse anymore.
Now we have to edit that out so Tiffany doesn't see it.
Listen, hey, but you know what? Point made. But I would argue that like cooking's not for everybody, butchery's not for everybody, home improvements aren't for everybody. Like,
it's true, but I do find cooking interesting, and it's funny because I do watch a ton of cooking shows. Oddly enough, like I watch Gordon Ramsay, I watch all these weird cooking, Bon Appetit. I watch all those YouTube things. I don't know why. I'm just interested in the process.
Yeah.
I don't think, I'm going to go try that ever.
Same.
I'm just more like, that's how they do it.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean? Like, so that's how it's all done. Good luck with that, babe.
I saw this real cool thing. You want to make it?
Yeah. I'm like, hey, they're going to make sourdough.
Yeah.
Want to learn that? So you can do it and not me? You got to have, I think, a bit of a passion for it.
But you do have a point. It comes back to the conversation with convenience versus time, money, and everything like that. Like, sometimes, like, you know what? Suck it up. Because that $40, $50, $60+ meal, depending on where you go, like, I've gone to the keg and dropped $500 on 4 people. A couple bottles of wine later, you're $400 in. But the thing is there are people that can't afford that. And then there are people that will... Well, I've got $30 tonight, so it's pizza night, kids.
Yeah.
And we're going to order in from 2 for 1 or whatever pizza that's available, where we can get the most food for our money. Because that's really where it comes down to is, I've got a limited food budget. How can I maximize the amount of food I'm going to get? to feed my family.
But wouldn't that make his process that much like? Okay, so let's say you're whatever $30 for that night.
Mm-hmm.
Times that by 10, so we got
Once a
300
week, so
$300
4
right
weeks a
there,
month,
right?
let's say.
Okay, $300 in meat butchered.
Mm-hmm.
How far would they get you?
Well, man, I would wager like people go home with 25 pounds for $200. That's a workshop. Like another 30, that'd be another 10 pounds. So like 30, 40 pounds of meat. Like, oh my God, that would probably last you like at least 2 or 3 months, I would think.
Oh, you get side dishes like rice or potatoes
That's right.
or vegetables.
Yeah, throw in your side dishes that are on the cheap. Like how much a potato costs? Like how much does rice
bag of
cost?
potatoes like $3-4.
Yeah.
A sack of rice, like we buy an 8 or 10 kilo sack of rice for $13 to $15.
And I would wager that meat doesn't always need to be the centerpiece. You guys have fabulous cooks at home. Like I'm sure that meat isn't always
yeah,
like
no.
that's everything.
We'll
Breakfast,
take
lunch,
a
and dinner.
steak that normally would feed one person. It's an 8 or 10 ounce piece of meat that you throw on the barbecue grill with mushrooms, peppers, or whatever. And you eat that in one meal. My wife can take that and make 3 meals out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we used to use
She'll
the
take
extra
4 ounces of beef and make wonders with it.
Right.
We used to use the extra steak and make what we called big salad. It's from Seinfeld. And we just have a big salad with like hard-boiled eggs cut up on it and the steak pieces left over and just a nice sauce and big salad night, right? It's kind of all the leftovers from the fridge.
But it's awesome.
Big salad.
Yeah. And it's healthy and it's like filling and it just goes a long way. And that dollar stretches.
But it's a time commitment.
I don't know,
that's
man. I
the
would wager
argument
that-
that people make, right? It's like, well, I don't have
That's
the
bullshit.
time to cook.
That is
but
bullshit.
How long does it take to hard boil an egg? 6 minutes at best?
And maybe.
And in that time, that steak cooks at the same amount of time. You probably can assemble a meal in 10 minutes. That big salad that you were just talking about.
Yeah. Have you gotten grief from the non-meat eating people? PETA. Has PETA come to you?
I've only had one person kind of like chirp me a little bit on social media, but I don't engage because I really don't think it's the place to have those conversations. So I just like block them. But it hasn't been very often, and I don't know if that's because I'm not high profile enough or what. But I don't get that.
Who
smoke.
knows? Maybe you'll get a spike in haters after this podcast.
It's
Yeah.
possible. It's possible.
Do you think they would appreciate more that you actually do it on a traditional level as opposed to like I know like I drive around town. I've seen the protesters outside of Fearman's.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the chaos they can ensue. And I get where they're coming from. I mean, they don't think animals should be killed like that. All the right to you.
Yep, makes sense.
You're doing it wrong, but whatever. All the power to you. Maybe you're right. Like, do you think they appreciate it more that you do it on a like
what it comes
farm
down
to
to,
table level as opposed to a corporation level? I think is what I'm going for.
That's fair. I've had vegetarians actually take the class that we're exploring introducing meat back into their diet for the sole purpose of they want to know where the meat's coming from and how to do it themselves.
Okay,
so they're
yeah.
okay. So I mean that's a certain category, but there's always going to be the fringe activists that are just like no matter what, no animal needs to be slaughtered for human consumption, and then so they'll paint with a broad brush, whether it's me working with small farms or Fearman's bringing in trucks loads of pigs to kill them by the thousands a day. They paint with a broad brush, and that's
And they
that's
just
their
say
business.
you're all killers.
That's right. So then I get lumped into that category too. So like, I don't know. Like again, I just don't have enough energy to kind of like fight that fight. On
And
every
quite frankly,
level.
what, you should just focus your energy on the people that appreciate what you do, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like what I'm trying to do is, again, like we talked before, it's just like I just want to work with the small farms. I want to bring it to the people that want it, that are appreciative of it, and just work with those people. Like everyone else can do
But
their
yeah,
thing.
that's the funny thing about vegans and all that shit is have your own opinion, have your own thing. I'm totally agree with it. I totally like cool.
You be you, I'll be me.
You exactly. We're humans, and I think, in my opinion, need meat.
You need protein.
Protein.
Anyways. Protein.
There's certain nutrients that are far
We
more
need it.
accessible through the avenues of eating meat.
So yeah, I was always down with the I'm against the McDonald's thing.
Yep.
I don't like the fast food way they do it. Like I stopped doing that 20 some odd years ago. Just the way I saw they were processing the food. I mean, that's gross.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that my, relatives are going out there and literally shooting deer
Yeah.
or moose and then they're hacking it up, and we're getting sausage and venison from them. I'm like, this is not a bad way to go.
Yummy.
So
yummy.
again,
Like,
with that content, I've been following Joe Rogan a lot. Supposedly he hunts everything,
Mm-hmm.
kills everything he eats. Would I be able to take you out to the thing? I'm like, we'll shoot this and we'll just gut this deer up right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
bring a rope so you can hang it because you got to bleed it and gut it. And
I don't know. What is the process?
So one of the
So I just shot a deer.
yeah.
Okay, Jim, go.
So it's funny though.
30 seconds.
One of the most engaging posts that I've had probably in the last year on my Instagram feed was I took a picture of the lamb abattoir, and we only processed about 39 lambs that day, and it was just a picture of the lambs the carcasses hanging. In the killed floor, and it was a very engaging post, and people weren't coming at me like that wasn't getting smoke for like, how can you do that? It was, people were just very interested in the process. So killing a lamb, we already touched upon this too, about like how quadrupeds, muscular, skeletal, systems very much similar across the board, any animal that walks on four legs. So lamb is very similar to doing a deer, and that's why I get some hunters that come out there to take the lamb classes. So if you were to shoot a deer in the field, it would just be a matter of bleeding it out properly, and then skinning it, and then eviscerating it, meaning taking out all the insides, heart, liver, lungs, etc., and then taking the carcass back and hanging it, preferably for at least 7 days, to try to get some age on it so that it breaks down the connective tissue and gets it a little bit more tenderness. And then we would just butcher it to spec after that.
What is your long-term process with this, though? That you want to just be doing these seminars, or do you want to own your own butcher shop?
No. You can pay me enough to have a butcher shop. That's for insider reasons that I don't want to get into here. But
running a business is a lot of work.
Yeah, but I am running a business. Like, I'm running these workshops, and then again, like I said, like, I'm doing the meat share program, so that's something totally different that doesn't require a storefront that is open 7 days a week, and I'm hoping that people come through the doors. Right?
No, 100%. There's a lot of risk and overhead.
Exactly. The lion's share of the business comes from, it's all online. I don't have inventory. Once I have enough people, I purchase the animal, and then I break it down, and they take everything away. So, like, I don't have that. My long term, yeah, that's interesting. That's a good question, because it was just posed to me the other day, and like I see the meat shares as more of a long game as opposed to the workshops. For some reason, I just see that petering out at sometimes. I could be wrong. They seem to be going well. I've been doing it now for 7 years.
Great. I think we covered a lot of great topics today, and I mean, I really want to thank our guest. And is there anything that you want to tell the people? You got any upcoming workshops? Do you have any social platforms you want to share? Instagram, Facebook, anything like that?
Yeah. So there's the meat share program is getting launched, and it's actually the first pickup is this week, but I don't know that the podcast will be out. So
It won't.
No, March 5th. March 5th was the first one, but March 26th is the might be able to sneak that one in. I don't know.
Yes,
Might be able to.
I
What
will.
about April?
I will push for that.
Okay, so March 26th is going to be the grass-fed beef, and I just opened up chicken shares too from Fenwood Farms in Ancaster, so I've got that really nice chicken. Other than that, there's always workshops happening, but I would just steer people to my website, jwaldronbutchers.com, and if you Instagram J Waldron Butchers, you'll find them on
That's
Instagram.
JWALDRON.
Correct.
.com.
J Waldron Butchers.
Butchers, sorry.
Yep. Throw the.
I was
butchers
just
in
trying to
there.
get your name in there spelled right.
Yep. So J Waldron Butchers will get you Instagram, Facebook, and my website.
And we'll make sure we get it down in the credits and everything as well. So
Awesome.
Thank you so much once again.
That was great.
And yeah, definitely I want to talk to you afterwards because I'm interested in your meat share program and things like that. So.
Yep.
That was great, man. Thank you so much.
The views and opinions expressed on the podcast do not necessarily reflect those of the Jam Production Company, its affiliates, and/or its partners.